Hello everyone and welcome, and thank you for joining me today. This is session 1, the basics of Iridology. I'm Cherie and I'm an advanced physical iridologist, herbalist and healer, NLP and timeline therapy practitioner. And so it's an honour to be with you here today, sharing learnings and wisdom along the way. So before I get started, I've got some notes here because I want to move through this efficiently and briefly and without going off on a tangent. So if I'm looking down from time to time, I'm just checking my notes because I want to make sure I stay on track and share with you everything that you need to know. So I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible and just try and give you as much content out of this short session today. So this is going to be the first of many, and in a series of educational videos and lessons to guide you on your way to better health, healing and happiness. So thank you again. Before we get started, I'd firstly like to just acknowledge and read the disclaimer. I'd like to say that what I'm about to share with you is for educational purposes only, and I'm not a doctor. And if you are experiencing any major health issues or concerns, I advise that you seek advice from your health professional, your chosen health professional. It's very important here. So we're not here to self-diagnose, treat or cure. This is information and another way of gathering data. So thanks again. So a lot of people have said to me along the journey, when I say what I do, what's an iridologist? And then I might say, we take images of your eyes and we gather data and analyze your health and well-being. And they'll be like, oh yeah, my naturopath did that a long time ago and she told me some amazing stuff about me. It was really interesting. And so I want to take that one step further because this is an age-old tradition that goes back over 3,000 years. Like the Egyptians were using this method of gathering data way back then, and throughout time it's changed and shifted, and there's different ways of looking at it, but the foundation and the basics remain the same. So like I said, I'm going to try and keep it brief. So this is really an introduction so you can get to know me and get to know a little bit about what I do. And if you like my vibe, you can follow, like and subscribe and learn more about what I'm doing. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to start with the basics. So I'm going to give you an idea of some of the basics of what iridology is. And you can see the chart in front of you, and I'm up in the corner up there. So hi. So simply put, it's another way of gathering data about our bodies and about our health and well-being. So the eyes, we analyze the eyes, and we can see 3 generations back on both your mother's and your father's side. So that's really important. And I'll go into this in more detail a little bit later, but it's what it actually does. That enables us to make better lifestyle choices and to be more informed and empowered about where we are in our life. If we know where we're at and we've kind of got these little markers and these indication and signposts that guide the way, that's got to be a positive thing, right? So your eyes are as unique as your fingerprints, and there is no one else in the world that has eyes like you. Our eyes are accumulative, so sometimes people say, oh, my eyes have changed over time, and there is a little bit of discussion around whether detox therapies or cleansers actually change the colours of our eyes. And that's debatable. That's can be a little bit of an edgy topic with iridologists. There's some for, some against. I'm remaining neutral here to just give you this information, and you can make your own informed decision. But what happens over time is we accumulate markings and pigmentations and different things in our eyes. So You might think, oh, my eyes were lighter when I was younger and now they're a bit darker. So, that may be why you're experiencing that. I can't say either way, but there's a possibility. So as an iridologist, what I do is I take photos or images of your eyes. I take images of the whites of the eyes as well, and your whites of your eyes are called the sclera. And within that, we're able to see any different markings, textures, tones, colours, just differences within the patterns that lay within the eyes. And every single part of your iris and your eyes represents a different part of your body system. So I'm sure you're quite fascinated to see below there's this wonderful colourful chart, and you can see there, and I've got my mouse to point different things today, but you can see different areas represent different parts of the body. So you've got your stomach, you've got your colon, and then coming out, you've got your different organs and different parts of the bodies. I won't go too much in detail today about detailed specifics. I'm going to cover one particular area, the Cholerete, but we can go into more detail about later on about working out from the centre out and what that means. So for today, just for the purpose of this, just giving you an overview, and you can see down here, you've got your kidneys and bladder, and there's a little image of the spine in there. And then up here, you've got around your head and your eyes and your sinuses. And then over here, there's your lungs. And each eye, as you can see, mirrors the other. So you've got your left eye over here and your right eye over there. And you're probably asking, why is the left on the right and the right on the left? So if we flip that around, you'd have your left and your right. And I've chosen this particular chart today because, there's different variations of charts, but I just felt that this was really colourful and alive, and it really, you could kind of really see things without having to kind of go up close and try and understand what each part is. But this gives you a really clear representation of the eyes. It's not the chart I use, but for today's purpose of sharing the basics, I wanted to just share with you something really colourful and really easy to follow. So, like I said about the whites of the eyes, that's called the sclera. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, the sclera. And that actually, for me, when I'm looking in the eyes, it backs up when there's particular markings in the whites of the eyes. It backs up a lot of the findings that I've found in the iris. So it's almost like a confirmation of what I've found within the iris. And so there's many different meanings for different markings and different colourings within the whites of the eyes. And it's really, really fascinating, and often can point to the particular areas of concern within the iris structure. Really interesting fact that I love so much. It's not just about the physical here. This is also about the emotional aspects of the self. So not only is there the physical meaning of what that might mean within the eye, a particular marking, but it also looks at the emotional aspect and the character traits that may be present as well, and why we do a certain thing, or perhaps something that we've been doing in our life doesn't really resonate or sit really well with us, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense. So I've been kind of doing this thing. Maybe it's time to kind of shift things a little bit. So it's great. It can really show us so much about ourselves. Once we've taken the images and we've done a full analysis of your eyes, it's about coming up or talking about a lifestyle shift or change or protocol that best serves you. And what you'll find is that a lot of iridologists are herbalists. Excuse me, put my notes over there. herbalists, nutritionalists, naturopaths. I'm pretty sure that that's part of the program. Iridology when you're studying naturopathy. So there's a lot of the time there's a lot of information that comes with that. So it's not just the iridologist taking the images of your eyes. A lot of the time we have a background in something that will support your protocol, or we would recommend you on to somebody who can help you with whatever comes up if it's not within our expertise. So it's amazing because this is probably a really big one for me, and I love this because again it just solidifies the fact that if we're empowered and we really look at what we're doing, we can make greater informed decisions. And one of the big things with iridology is that it can possibly identify your personal and genetic pathway to disease in the body. And for me, when I'm working with clients, that's a no-brainer. You know, if you can come to me, and even if you're symptom-free, you don't have to have symptoms to have an assessment done. You can come and just understand a bit more about who you are. And if you can identify some of your genetics and your personal pathways to better health, then I highly recommend looking at this as an option of assessing what's going on within your body. So there's some of the basics. Point 2 with this session today was how is this a great way of gathering data, and how is it a great preventative for you? Because it was like, well, you're taking images of my eyes. How is this a great preventative for me? And I think just going back on the previous point in under section 1 there, I do feel if you're able to identify your genetic and personal pathway disease, that's number 1. And it's the genetic blueprint that we carry through. So if we can see 3 generations back on both your mother's and father's sides, we're going back a long way, and then you're bringing that blueprint through. And sometimes we inherit things, and it's not because we live unhealthily or we're choosing the wrong foods. We could be really healthy and making the right lifestyle choices, but sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes genetic plays a big part, and there can be things that come through and affect us in our lives. And so for me, that's another big important thing about this, is that we are able to make informed decisions and choices, and we could be choosing foods and supplements that aren't aligned with our genetics and who we are. Your eyes show signs of certain aspects of the self, and often long before they physically manifest in the body. So, like I said before, you might not have any symptoms, or nothing might be present, but you know that your father or your mother or your grandfather or so forth had this particular condition, and you've kind of seen it come through genetically through the family line, and you're thinking, you know what, I don't want to end up like that, and I'd like to understand that a bit more deeply. So when I say the eye shows signs before it manifests in the body, when we get in early, and when we're having a look early on, when you have no symptoms, or when you're in full health and luster, that for me is the best time to get in and just see what might be underlying underneath. And when I say often aspects show up in the eyes before they physically manifest, it's true. So there may be a slight pigmentation or a marking or something that sits over a particular organ or place, and we can tell straight away by the colour, by the texture, by the tone, what that represents and the importance, and whether it's something common or something that's a little bit abnormal. And, we can send you on your way with an analysis of who you are, and so you can then decide what you'd like to do from there. So that to me is really beneficial. If we're going to be living longer and wanting to live more healthily and just being better and the better versions of ourselves, it's important to work on prevention rather than cure. And that's where I sit. I sit more in the preventative space, about sharing knowledge and informing people, and so they can make the choice. I said this before, but as you can see from the chart, each particular section plays a role and has a particular importance within the body. And I will go over the weeks, we'll go into that in more detail. I've covered that about gathering data and being able to make more informed decisions and being more in the preventative rather than the cure space. I just want to touch on one thing that's come up here as well. If you are symptomatic and you are experiencing things and you're not feeling very well, yes, consult with your health professional. But if this is something that you think might be of benefit to you, because you're wondering what's going on within your body, I advise having an iridology session and having your photos taken of your eyes just to see what's going on underneath, because quite often we can be trying certain things and it's not working, and we seem to be getting sicker, and it could be one tweak of something, or something that's been missed, or something that's just sitting underneath the surface. And so this is not just a preventative, this is also if you are feeling unwell and you want to understand a little bit more deeply about what's going on with your health and well-being. Okay, and now to move on to section 3 of today's session. And I've chosen the Cholerete today. And so where is the Cholerete and why is it important? And I've chosen that today because I feel that gut health, intestinal health, digestive health is so important, and it's such a great place to start. There's so much talk about your gut-mind connection, and it's just got its own life of its own down there, and it affects so much of our well-being. So if your stomach's upset or you're not feeling very well, it throws you right off. It throws your whole life off, and you feel uncomfortable, and it's just not a nice feeling. So I believe starting with the gut is really important, starting with intestinal health and digestive health. And I believe getting that right will ripple out and be beneficial to your whole body. So I chose the Cholerete today, and so I'm just going to use my mouse to show you. So this is the Cholerete section, this middle section here. So you can see it says stomach, both sides, and in there you can see the round here, the Cholerete as well. So this is representative of the small intestine, transverse colon, descending colon, and then coming down into the rectum and the anus. And so just to clarify there, so you understand, the right eye represents the ascending colon. So you can see here on the left eye, it's not there. So the right eye, so you're basically traveling over. So you've got the ascending colon on the right side, a portion of the transverse colon coming across. Then as we move across into the left eye, the remaining portion of the transverse colon, and then your descending colon in the left eye there, and then coming down into the anus. Now it can happen, and most of the time it's a little bit darker in this section here because we're moving more down into the rectum section where fecal matter can form, and it's forming more solidly. So it can sometimes tend to be a little bit more darker in that area in the left eye. And so the Cholerete represents the union between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. It's also called the RUF, or the autonomic nerve reef, ANW, if you might have heard of that before, or you may not have. And just saying that, you know, what it represents, it's the balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. Straight away, it's telling you that that gut and intestine and all your digestive health is connected in with your nervous system, the way you're feeling. And again, just reiterating that why this is so important. Quite often it's the place where I start, and I'll start with what's called a bowel transit test, and I'll go into that in another session. But what it is, a bowel transit test is a way of me gathering data before we take the images, and for me to understand your bowel transit time. So how long is it taking from food coming in, you ingesting, and how long is it taking before it comes out? This, as simple as it sounds and as simple as it actually is to do, is so important, because if we've got a really slow transit time with food actually coming in and when it's done, if we are constipated or not regular enough, it can cause a buildup of toxicity in the colon, which is something we really want to be avoiding. Once we have a buildup of toxicity, it can often lead to other illnesses and other different conditions that will interfere with the rest of the body and our health and well-being. So the importance of being regular is something I will talk about. I like to talk about poo a lot and the regularity of it, and it's something I'll cover in a further session in more detail, so you come to understand the importance of why that's so important. Let me just check my notes here. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so again, just this section and the Cholerete, it really depends on texture, tone and colour, and that will tell me what's happening there. And then it's also linking to other markings joined to this area on this, you know, the little outer area here. Any markings there, whether the Cholerete's broken or whether it's displaced or anything. There's different things that happen within this region that tell me so much about your bowel health. So, you know, sometimes what happens is we have a Cholerete and it's what we call atonic, which means it's a really big Cholerete and it's large and it's coming out here, you know. And then other times it might be really, really close and restricted, constricted into the pupil area, you know. So straight away, you just from me saying that, you know, there's someone might have looser bowels and someone who's a bit more constricted and constipated. And again, this all what's the word I'm looking for? This is also tells us a lot about our character as well. So I normally start with our transit test. So when we start to look at our gut health, our bowel health, our colon health, our digestive health, and analyse just this one section of our body within our eyes and within ourselves, how we're feeling in general, it's so important to understand. And I think if you just walked away with that one component, you'd have more of a deeper understanding of what's going on with you within your body. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. I just had a feeling I missed one last thing. Oh, that's right. So just before we go on to the next part and just close up this session, I just wanted to mention, which I missed just before, is the Cholerete. A balanced Cholerete is approximately 1/4 to 1/3 of the distance of the diameter of the iris, and is smooth and slightly oval in shape. And so when we've got that nice balanced Cholerete. We know that we've got good digestive health, and there's, you're in good working order. But if you don't have that, that's okay. I'm not saying that you're not in good working order if you don't, because again, it all depends on all the different markings, textures and tones and the way it shows up to me in the images. And when you have a session done, I go through an analysis in detail, so it's covering a lot more than just the Cholerete. So you've heard today just a little snippet from me about iridology. I'm really passionate about this topic, and I know this is the first video in the series, but it's really great to be here and share this with you. I'm really looking forward to sharing more with you. If you have any questions, you can connect with me and leave some comments below. This is going to be on YouTube, on my website, on a few different areas, but you can always connect with me via my website. And don't forget, you can always subscribe to stay updated with everything that's going on. Oh, thank you again for joining me. It's been so wonderful to be here, and I'm wishing you a blessed day, and I look forward to connecting again and guiding you on your journey to greater health, healing and happiness. Thanks again. Bye for now. This is Cherie.